Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Weisack, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you for joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. Always glad to have with us again, Vice Chair John Amedee. John, thanks again for joining us.
Keith, it's always a pleasure to come sit on the desk with you and talk about what's going on.
I appreciate that. You know, it's interesting. We talk about the seasons. One of my buddies, they asked his son in school, he said, "Do you know the seasons?" He raised his hand. He said, "Yeah." He said, "Hunting season, crawfish season." And, you know, it's interesting. We're in this season where we've just kind of finished this Thanksgiving feast, which means our elections are finished as well. You know, it's just kind of long with the president's race and the runoff that they had, but everybody kind of is in their place now, right?
Yes, we finally know who we're going to be working with over these next 4 years.
Right.
Of course, President-elect Jason Bergeron, in fact, walking in the door just a minute ago, I was on the phone with him. He was walking into staff meetings at the towers.
Right.
He's boots on the ground getting things going. And we were just talking about some things that we're going to discuss in an upcoming meeting where my concerns for my district, and I want to take him out there, show him a few things out there, and then where we can help him as council members as well. So trying to get that relationship started off correctly and productively.
Sure, and I know Jason's open to that, which is really, really nice. But one of the things that we can look forward to is that things are kind of going to take shape here in the next couple of months or the next month, and then January 4th is where things really happen, right?
Yes, we are going to be inaugurated on January 4th. We're going to have a mass at St. Francis in the morning, and then we're going to meet at the Civic Center in the evening in one of the meeting rooms there, where we're going to take the oath of office. And then one of the first things the council does is they elect new chair and vice chair for the upcoming year.
Right.
And, you know, we've in the runoffs, Brian Pleasure was brought back to the council. He won his seat. And then we have two newcomers in Kim Chauvin from the Chauvin area, owns businesses down there, and then Clyde Hamner from the school board, who's taken a shot at this before and then now has won elections. So I think we've got a good group of people moving forward, a diverse group in the things that we want to get accomplished, and now we just have to find where we're going to gel and like Jason says, move Terrebonne forward.
Move Terrebonne forward. And, you know, a lot of those people you've mentioned, all of our council members are all very good community leaders. I know for a fact, I actually was in school with both Clyde Hamner and Kim at the same time. And I know them well in as much as what their commitment is to their districts, as all of you are, which is really exciting. But one of the things coming up is the meeting, right? And so I want to talk a little bit about some of these agenda items, this budget item. Let's talk about item one first, if you don't mind.
All right.
And that's the one about the lights, right?
So a lot of people, item 4 is a 5% budget amendments.
Right.
So that's something that we have to do whenever there's an unfavorable variance of 5% or more with the current budget.
Okay.
So, you know, everything has a reason on why it's done, and whenever there's something that's out, we have to correct those. It's a bookkeeping thing. But, you know, more importantly, while we're talking, Keith, about the road lighting districts, I get a lot of calls from people who said, you know, these lights have been out waiting to be repaired since Ida. Why are we still paying for them as residents? We're still paying a millage for those things. And we've actually been able to recover some monies from, say, Entergy, some I'm trying to think of the exact words, basically like a refund.
Or reimbursement.
Reimbursement. And what we do, we pass that on in a way, we don't necessarily write a check out to each resident. What we do is we roll the millage down. So, for example, your millage may be able to top out at 5 mills. And I'll give you one example. In the Road Lighting District 1, where I'm at, we rolled it down to half a mil.
Okay.
Which reduced the amount that was collected, because we can't over collect anyway. But so for 1 year they were able to do that. I think this year we're going to be at 1 mil, you know, which is still, again, less than what it could be.
Right.
Just to get that back into the pockets of the citizens who have been waiting for their lights to be turned on. And another thing about the lights too is I often get calls, especially the Schriever overpass, half the lights are on all day long. Well, we pay a per fixture fee. So whether that light's on or off, we're not paying for energy usage. We still, you know, just for a round example, let's say it's $13 per fixture. We pay that regardless. And we have in the energy contract, I think it's like a 10% outage of fixtures is calculated in at any given time.
Right.
And I ride my district, and I use the Energies app at night. And when I see the lights out, I send it in.
Oh my!
So that way,
so it's that simple for reporting.
It is, and the public, all you have to do is go download Energies app, and you go to it when you bring it up, and it'll ask you for which. It'll look at your location, and it'll say, we cover these lights, which one's out. You select on that one, send it to them, and then in a couple of weeks, they generally have it operational again.
Right. And again, so people just need to know that first and foremost, whether the lights are on or not, we're having to pay for the usage of the light, whether it's on or not. But if in fact those lights are out, that may be factored into some reimbursement, which goes to the parish, and then we can decide in each district to reduce that millage based on the reimbursement.
Absolutely. Okay. And that's what we've done. If people go look back over the last couple of years at what they were paying on that particular line item for road lighting district, they'll see what they were doing. And you know, we didn't recover everything, but we were able to recover some, and Candace assures me that's how we're taking care of that.
Right, and how we move forward with that. And so we got a lot more things to discuss. John, we're going to take a short break, Absolutely. If that's okay. I appreciate the clarification. I know a lot of those things that get discussed, people that can't go to the meetings necessarily, we want them to know how and what happens and how that gets paid forward to the constituents and residents. We appreciate it. All right, guys, we're going to take a short break. Do that with us. We'll be right back here with John Amity as we talk more about what's coming up with our meetings.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. South Louisiana Bank, it's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. Alford and Associates, for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. So very glad you're joining us here with our Vice Chair with District 4, John Amity. John, thanks and welcome back.
You know, Keith, we were talking about the election just a moment ago, and I wanted to mention, as you introduce yourself, you know, another licensed clinical social worker just got elected to the House of Representatives.
Yes, she did.
And our council chairwoman, Jessica Domingue. So don't want to leave her out.
Yeah, congratulations to her as well. I know all of us, we kind of distinguish ourselves as a licensed clinical social worker. Not that it defines us, but I think it makes a difference in how we move forward, and really proud of her and where she's come. She and I worked together at the hospital years ago.
Yeah, and you have to be proud of what you do.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really big deal. And then what you do and who you represent. And I know that that's a really big deal for all of our councilmen and councilwomen in what they do. We've got some other things that are on the budget to discuss as well. Let's talk about item one.
Yeah, so item one is the bids for the Bayou Country Sports Park marquee sign.
Right.
So this is a sign, just to kind of give a brief explanation of it. At the top, it's going to say Bayou Country Sports Park. We're going to have below that Terrebonne Health Services, who is a big sponsor of the park. They're going to have a part of that sign. And then we're going to have an LED portion of the sign that's going to be able to announce all the different events, what's happening at the park.
Right.
You know, it's a contract that went out to a local vendor here for $52,000. Having just bought a sign for our church recently, I think they've gotten a fair price on it.
Okay.
Knowing what we paid for that one, so I have no problem with approving this.
Right. And so again, one of those things is those signs are expensive, but they work really well.
Well, they are. They're a good tool for you. You can use them, of course, for advertising that you can sell on the park, as well as announcing what events are coming to the park. So that way you can make your calendar appropriations as to what you'll be doing.
Right, right. And so again, we're excited about the park. We're excited about all the things and all the recovery that it's had. Dean and their crew have worked really, really hard about getting it back up to speed. It took in a lot of damage for the storm.
Yeah, they did really well, especially with a small crew that they have. So we're excited and looking forward to continuing the progress out there and getting this thing where we want it to be.
Okay. Speaking about things in the area, let's talk about maybe that public services and stuff. We're going to honor Chester, right?
Yeah. So, a couple of weeks ago, Martin and I were talking. John Navy worked really hard to get this substation done. Substation has gone to completion, and we're going to name it after a man in the community. Brian Pleasure had put this on. And Mr. Chester Nixon had a concrete company back in the 70s, and unfortunately he passed away in the 80s. I think he was 77 years old, is what we were told. But, he gave job opportunities to men in that community,
right,
doing concrete work. So that was a big part. And I think it's right to honor the people in our community that did things for the community.
Right.
I can remember growing up and living through the 80s, having a business in the 80s, and that Nixon name to today is still out there. The Nixon name is still tied into the concrete work that goes on. In fact, just the other day, I was able to get a card from one of them, so that as we're looking for people to do work,
right,
we can call on them,
rely
as well.
on them. Well, my parents, I grew up on Nixon Drive, and people would ask me all the time if I had any connection with Mr. Chester. I'm like, no, I knew who he was, but that was I knew he was a really good man who gave a lot of opportunity in our community, which is really, really nice.
And that was a big deal, especially for the Mechanicville area, to give those young men. We always look at different areas, and we're looking for things to get kids doing something and being productive, and he was able to do that.
Right.
So kudos to him for what he's been able to do, as well as his family, who's continued on to this day.
That's exactly right. Now, you mentioned something that was really interesting about one of the lawsuits that was talked about. There's one of the things that kind of lingered on through the election, right? Let's talk about what the parish wants to do about that.
Yeah, so one of the topics during the elections was the legacy lawsuits.
Right.
And there's been a lawsuit going on between the parish and the state in who represents the parish in this lawsuit. So Steve Trosclair put this on the agenda to on this one individual item. Because of the conversations that went on, they want to make sure that before this lawsuit is either looked the other way or done away with, or anything's moved on it, they want to make sure that the council gets an opportunity to approve or disapprove whatever's being looked at.
And give their input, right?
And I spoke to President-elect Bergeron about it just a few moments ago. And like I told him, I said, look, this is one little thing just to reassure the oil companies that we're on top of it. So it's not really a big thing to worry about.
Right.
Doesn't really hinder him.
Gotcha. And now there's also on the agenda about Bollinger in Dularge and some of the things happening there.
Right. So Bollinger, who's been great for the community, of course, everybody think of Bollinger, they think of Lafourche Parish.
Right.
Well, Bollinger's in Terrebonne Parish, and they're a big player in Terrebonne Parish as well. And this is the ITEP tax incentive program to get these businesses spending some money to redevelop, grow their business in the area. So if we can give them a tax break for 5 years with a possible 5-year addition if they want to spend some more money.
Right.
And then they also have to provide jobs. There's a whole list of things they have to do to accomplish it.
Right.
Why not? Let Bollinger's growing so good right now. Let's help them so that we can bring more work into Louisiana instead of other states.
Yeah, and it's a win-win situation
It
in those
absolutely
kinds
is.
of scenarios. And so we appreciate all the things that y'all have. I know that's just some of the things that are on the agenda. Some of those items, we've got things going on Tuesday and Wednesday. And so people can kind of look forward to seeing that as we publish it.
Yep.
Very
Coming
good.
to the end of the year.
All right. That's exactly
again.
right. John, we appreciate your time today.
Yes.
Very much.
Thank you.
All right. And we thank John and all the elected public officials for all the things that they do. And that'll do it for this particular Bayou Time. But don't go anywhere. A whole lot more local programming right here on HTV.